Imagine being able to face any situation without being disturbed. Not someday, not after years of practice, but having access right now to a place inside you that nothing can shake. A quiet strength that remains steady, whether you're in the middle of chaos or resting in peace. What if I told you that calm isn't something you need to achieve? That the unshakable mind you're searching for isn't somewhere out there. It's something you remember. 2,500 years ago, a man sat under a tree and discovered this. He had tried everything: pleasure, deprivation, every path imaginable. And what he finally understood changed the course of human wisdom. Not a religion, not a belief system, a map. A practical step-by-step map to peace that doesn't depend on your circumstances being perfect. That map is what I want to share with you today. These aren't abstract concepts. They're techniques that transform how you respond to stress, to adversity, to the unexpected challenges life brings. And they work whether you're in crisis right now or simply seeking something deeper. If it feels right, let me know in the comments where you're listening from. I love knowing you're out there. Find a comfortable position. Let yourself settle. This wisdom has traveled 25 centuries to reach you. It's not going anywhere. Are you ready? Let me start with something that might surprise you about how everything in your life is connected. This morning, you probably did something without thinking about it. Maybe you made coffee or tea. Your hands moved through familiar motions, filling the kettle, measuring grounds or leaves, waiting for water to heat. Steam rose. That first sip touched your lips. Such a simple ritual, so ordinary you barely registered it happening. But let me show you something extraordinary hidden inside that ordinary moment. That cup in your hands contains the entire universe. I know that sounds like poetic exaggeration. Stay with me. Trace it back. Those coffee beans came from somewhere, perhaps Colombia's mountain slopes, maybe Ethiopia's ancient highlands, possibly Vietnam's red earth valleys. A farmer planted seeds in soil enriched by generations of fallen leaves, decomposed matter, minerals dissolved from rocks over millennia. Someone watered those young plants, their hands calloused from years of tending. Rain fell from clouds that formed over oceans thousands of miles away. Water evaporated from tropical seas, carried by winds shaped by the Earth's rotation, by temperature differences between equator and poles, by forces set in motion when the planet first formed 4.5 billion years ago. That rain nourished your coffee plants. Each morning, the sun rose, a star burning 93 million miles away, fusing hydrogen into helium, releasing light that traveled 8 minutes through the vacuum of space to warm those leaves. Photosynthesis transformed starlight into sugars, into growth, into the beans that eventually reached your cup. Human hands picked those ripe cherries. Real people with their own morning rituals. their own families, their own joys and heartbreaks. They sorted the harvest, their fingers moving with practiced efficiency learned over seasons. Others dried the beans under that same sun, turned them regularly, checked for quality. Roasters transformed green beans into aromatic brown. Someone designed the roasting equipment. Someone else manufactured it. Workers assembled the machines. Engineers solved problems that arose. Entire supply chains stretched across continents, ships crossing oceans, trucks rumbling over highways, warehouses storing and distributing. The water you used fell as rain somewhere, filtered through layers of earth and stone, collected in reservoirs built by workers who poured concrete and laid pipes. Engineers designed treatment systems. Pump operators monitored pressure. Infrastructure, maintained by thousands of people you'll never meet, made clean water flow from your tap. Your cup itself, if ceramic, someone dug clay from the earth, shaped it on a wheel or in a mold, glazed it with minerals, fired it in a kiln fueled by gas or electricity generated at power plants. If glass, sand, was melted at temperatures exceeding 2000 degrees. Artists designed the shape. Factory workers produced it. Truck drivers delivered it to stores where cashiers sold it to you with money you earned through your own labor. And you, standing there, able to lift that cup because your parents fed you, because farmers grew that food decades ago when you were young, because the earth provided nutrients, because the sun shone then too. You understand the concept of coffee, the word itself, because someone taught you language, because humans developed complex communication over hundreds of thousands of years of evolution. Nothing in that simple morning ritual exists alone. This is what the Buddha called dependent origination, pratitya samutpada in Sanskrit. Everything arises in connection with everything else. Nothing stands independently. The entire cosmos conspired across time and space to bring you that single sip of warm liquid on an ordinary morning. And understanding this leads us directly to one of the most misunderstood teachings in all of Buddhism, karma. When most people hear the word karma, they imagine cosmic justice, divine scorekeeping. Do something bad, get punished by the universe. Do something good, receive rewards. Like there's some celestial accountant tracking every deed, dispensing consequences according to a moral ledger. But that's not what karma is. The word karma simply means action. It's the natural law of cause and effect playing out through intention and behavior. Not punishment, not reward, just the way reality works. Imagine standing beside a perfectly still lake on a windless morning. The surface mirrors the sky like polished glass. You pick up a smooth stone and toss it in. Ripples spread outward in perfect concentric circles, expanding in every direction, touching the far shore, reflecting back, interfering with each other in complex patterns. Did you create those ripples as a reward for throwing the stone skillfully? Are the ripples punishing you for disturbing the water's stillness? Of course not. They're simply the natural consequence of your action. Stone meets water, physics happens, ripples form. Cause and effect. That's karma in its truest sense. Every thought you think sends ripples through the lake of your mind. Think angry thoughts repeatedly, and anger becomes your mind's default state. Practice gratitude consistently, and appreciation becomes how you naturally see the world. Every word you speak sends ripples through the lives around you. A harsh word can echo in someone's mind for years. A kind word can change the entire trajectory of their day, which affects how they treat others, which ripples further outward. Every action you take creates waves that touch other lives in ways you may never witness. Hold the door for someone rushing behind you. Maybe they arrive at their appointment on time. Maybe that appointment changes their career. Maybe they go home in a better mood and connect with their child. Maybe that child remembers that evening decades later as a turning point. You'll never know, but the ripples spread. And here's what makes this understanding both sobering and liberating: those ripples come back. Not because the universe keeps score, but because everything is connected. Send kindness into the world, and you're creating conditions where kindness returns. Send anger or bitterness, and you're planting seeds of anger, not through magic, through the interconnected nature of existence. The Buddha expressed this with startling clarity. What you think, you become. What you feel, you attract. What you imagine, you create. Let those words settle. Really let them land. This isn't mysticism. It's neuroscience confirmed by ancient wisdom. Spend your days thinking bitter thoughts, and your neural pathways literally rewire toward bitterness. Your brain becomes optimized for finding things to be bitter about. Imagine worst-case scenarios constantly, and you train your nervous system into chronic anxiety. Practice gratitude regularly, and you develop an eye for beauty, for kindness, for reasons to appreciate life. But here's where this teaching becomes genuinely hopeful, genuinely transformative. Your past doesn't own you. Yes, your previous actions have consequences. Yes, you're experiencing results from seeds planted yesterday, last year, perhaps in childhood. Those consequences are real and sometimes difficult. But right now, in this precise moment, you're planting new seeds. Right now, you're making choices. The choice to listen to these teachings rather than scroll mindlessly. The choice to seek wisdom rather than distraction. The choice to grow rather than stagnate. Each choice is karma in action. Each moment is seed planting time. Every moment offers a fresh start. Every breath brings new possibility. Think of one small thing you could shift today. Not something overwhelming, not a complete personality overhaul, just one tiny adjustment. Perhaps pausing 3 seconds before responding when irritation rises in your chest. Maybe actually looking into someone's eyes when they speak, instead of glancing at your phone's dark screen. Possibly saying thank you and letting yourself feel genuine appreciation rather than automatic politeness. Choosing to walk outside for 5 minutes instead of scrolling for 30. These aren't good deeds in some moral sense. They're investments in your own peace. They're you consciously choosing which seeds to plant in the garden of your mind. Because here's the truth that changes everything once you really grasp it. You're not a passive recipient of karma. You're actively creating it every single moment you're alive. Choose patience over anger once, and you've made patience slightly more accessible tomorrow. Your brain has formed new connections, weakened old reactive patterns. Choose kindness when you don't feel particularly kind, and you're literally training yourself in kindness. Choose presence over distraction, and you're strengthening neural networks associated with attention and awareness. The mind is like soil, rich, receptive, ready to grow whatever you plant. Plant thorns, harvest pain. Plant flowers, harvest beauty. And this makes me wonder about what happens when someone keeps planting those seeds day after day, moment after moment, year after year. Where does that path lead? The Buddha had a word for the destination: awakening, bodhi, enlightenment. But those words make it sound distant, don't they? So mystical and unreachable. Like something only monks in remote caves can achieve after decades of extreme meditation practice. Let me show you how close it actually is. Forget everything you've heard about enlightenment. Forget glowing auras and levitation. Forget supernatural powers and transcendent states. Forget the idea of becoming someone special, someone fundamentally different from who you are now. Let me tell you a story about a fish. Imagine a fish born in the ocean depths. From its first moment of existence, water surrounds it completely. Water flows above, below, on every side. The fish swims through water, feeds in water, rests in water, plays in water, lives every moment of its life immersed in water. But here's the remarkable thing. The fish has no concept of water. How could it? Water is so omnipresent, so utterly pervasive, that the fish can't perceive it as something distinct from existence itself. To the fish, water just is. It's like asking you to see air. Yes, intellectually, you know air exists. But do you experience it constantly? Or does it fade into the background of awareness, noticed only when wind blows or breath becomes difficult? Now imagine one day, perhaps through some fortunate accident, perhaps through patient attention, the fish suddenly becomes aware. A shift occurs in consciousness. Suddenly, the fish realizes, I'm in water. This whole time, all these years, I've been swimming in water. Water has been here all along. Nothing about the water changed. The ocean didn't transform. Only the fish's awareness shifted. Recognition occurred. That's enlightenment. It's not about becoming something you're not. It's about seeing what's always been true. It's not about achieving some special state of consciousness unavailable to ordinary people. It's about recognizing the reality you've been swimming in since birth. We spend our lives immersed in this present moment, in this field of awareness, but we don't see it. We're so busy thinking about the past, replaying conversations, regretting decisions, analyzing what went wrong, so busy planning the future, worrying about outcomes, imagining scenarios, trying to control what hasn't happened yet. So busy judging, comparing, wanting things to be different than they are. We miss the water we're swimming in. Enlightenment is simply waking up to what is. Not what was last year, not what might be tomorrow, not what should be, according to your preferences. What is right now, in this moment, exactly as it presents itself. And this matters tremendously because most human suffering comes from fighting reality. We think peace will arrive when we arrange our external lives perfectly, when we finally get the right job with the right salary and the right colleagues, when we find the right relationship that fulfills all our needs, when we achieve the right body through the right diet and exercise program, when we accumulate the right amount of money to feel secure, when all conditions finally align just so. But the Buddha discovered something radical, something that overturned conventional wisdom. Suffering doesn't come from our circumstances. It comes from how tightly we grip them. Before enlightenment, before he became the Buddha, he was Prince Siddhartha. He had everything a human being could possibly want. Literally everything. Unimaginable wealth, exquisite pleasures, perfect comfort, unlimited luxury. 3 palaces for different seasons, dancers, musicians, the finest foods. Every desire met before it fully formed. And he was profoundly miserable. So he left, abandoned his comfortable prison. He became an ascetic, a wandering monk, practicing extreme self-denial. He starved himself until his ribs showed through paper-thin skin. He practiced such severe austerities that he nearly died multiple times. He thought perhaps suffering was the path, so he made himself suffer deliberately, intensely. And he discovered that didn't work either. He was suffering about suffering, adding a second layer of pain on top of life's natural difficulties, turning existence into a battle against existence itself. Finally, exhausted from extremes, he sat down under a fig tree and made a simple decision. He would sit there until he understood, not until he achieved something impressive, not until he became someone special or holy. Just until he saw clearly what was actually happening. And what he saw was profound in its simplicity. Peace doesn't come from controlling circumstances. It comes from releasing the grip on how things should be. His words echo across 25 centuries. Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. Pause there for a moment. Really let that land in your body, not just your thinking mind. How much of your life have you spent seeking peace in external things? In achievements that lose their shine weeks after attaining them? In validation from others that never quite fills the emptiness? In getting everything arranged just right, only to watch it fall apart again? And how often has that external peace lasted? Here's the gentle truth, and I offer this with genuine compassion. You're not broken. You don't need fixing. You don't need to become someone different before you can be at peace. You need remembering. Like coming home to a house you never actually left. You've been there the whole time, just looking everywhere else for it. Searching the world for something you've carried in your chest since birth. Enlightenment sounds like some distant mountain peak, requiring decades of difficult climbing. But it's more like realizing you're already standing on solid ground. You were just so busy looking up at the peak, so focused on the journey ahead, that you forgot to feel the earth beneath your feet, supporting you right now. And here's a paradox that confuses many people first encountering these teachings. Enlightenment means living without attachment, but it doesn't mean living without love. Love deeply, but release the need to own. Care profoundly while surrendering the illusion of control. Experience joy fully, even knowing, especially knowing, it will eventually pass. Think about watching a sunset. You stand there witnessing its beauty, feeling moved as colors spread across the sky in brilliant streaks. You don't need to own the sunset to appreciate it fully. You don't need to prevent it from changing to enjoy this moment of beauty. You love it completely, while knowing it will fade into night. That knowing doesn't diminish the love, it deepens it. That's what awakening allows. Full engagement with life, without the desperate clinging that turns pleasure into anxiety. But I know what might be arising in your mind right now. This sounds beautiful in theory, perhaps even inspiring. But how do you actually live like that when your mind is always somewhere else? When you're eating breakfast but thinking about emails waiting in your inbox? When you're supposedly listening to someone but already composing your next sentence? When you're walking but completely lost in thought? Arriving without remembering the journey? That's where the practice of presence comes in. And it's simpler than you might imagine. Let me ask you something. Where were you 30 seconds ago? Not physically. Your body was likely in the same position. But where was your attention living? Were you fully here, absorbing these words? Or were you partly here and partly somewhere else, thinking about what you need to do later, replaying something from earlier today, judging whether you agree with what you're hearing, wondering if this is worth your time? Be honest with yourself. There's no wrong answer. I'm simply pointing to something we all experience constantly. We're almost never fully present. We eat while scrolling through phones, tasting nothing. We walk while lost in thought, seeing nothing around us. We talk while planning our next sentence, hearing nothing the other person is actually saying. We go through entire days, entire weeks, sometimes entire years, in a kind of waking sleep, physically present, but mentally absent. Life is happening, and we're missing it. The Buddha taught that our minds resemble lakes. When water is still, you can see all the way to the bottom, every stone, every fish, every detail, perfectly clear. But when wind disturbs the surface, when thoughts and emotions churn the water into turbulence, you can't see anything clearly. Everything becomes murky, distorted, unclear. Most of us live with constantly agitated water, thoughts racing like startled fish, worries spinning in repetitive loops, plans forming and reforming, judgments arising about everything we encounter. The wind of mental activity never stops blowing across the surface. Presence is what happens when the water settles. Not because you forced stillness through effort, but because you stopped adding more wind, stopped stirring the water with constant thinking. And then, clarity arrives naturally. You see things as they actually are, not filtered through your fears and desires and stories about how things should be. You experience life directly, instead of through the screen of constant mental commentary. Now, many people confuse mindfulness with relaxation. They approach it as a technique for feeling calm and peaceful. And yes, calm often comes as a natural byproduct, but that's not the point. Mindfulness isn't about achieving calm, though that frequently occurs. It's about waking up to the life you're already living. It's about being alive while you're alive. And you don't need anything special to practice this. You don't need a meditation cushion, or a quiet room, or perfect conditions. You don't need to wait until your life becomes less busy. Every single moment, exactly as it is, offers a doorway into presence. Your breath, it's always with you, always available. Feel it right now. Cool air entering your nostrils, the slight expansion of your chest or belly, the gentle release as you exhale. That's presence. That's being here. Nothing mystical, just awareness of what's actually happening. The taste of your next meal, instead of eating, while doing 3 other things simultaneously, what if you took one bite with complete attention, really tasted it, felt the texture, noticed how your body responds with satisfaction or aversion? That's not some fancy spiritual practice requiring years of training. That's just being alive to your own life. The touch of fabric on your skin right now. Can you feel it? Your clothes against your shoulders, the chair supporting you, the ground under your feet if you're standing. Most of the time we're so disconnected from our bodies, so lost in thoughts, that we don't notice these sensations. But they're always there, quietly inviting us back to now. Sound in this moment. What do you actually hear? Maybe birds singing outside your window. Maybe traffic humming in the distance. Maybe the sound of your own breathing, your heartbeat. Maybe silence itself, that vast quiet underneath everything. You don't have to do anything with these sounds. Don't have to analyze or judge them. Just notice them existing. That's presence. There's a story I love about a monk washing dishes. A young student, eager for profound teachings, asked him what the secret to enlightenment was. The monk looked up from the sink and said simply, "When you wash the dishes, wash the dishes." The student was confused, probably disappointed. He wanted some elaborate technique, some secret meditation practice, some complex philosophy. But the monk was pointing to the most profound thing there is. When you wash dishes, don't wash them to get them clean so you can move on to the next task. Don't wash them while your mind replays an argument from earlier or rehearses tomorrow's presentation. Just wash the dishes. Feel the warm water flowing over your hands. Notice the slickness of soap bubbles. Hear the gentle clink of plates. Be alive while washing them. That's it. That's the whole practice of presence. That's enlightenment, available in ordinary moments. The Buddha understood this deeply and expressed it with timeless clarity. Listen to his words, as relevant now as they were 2,500 years ago. The secret of health, for both mind and body, is not to mourn for the past, not to worry about the future, but to live the present moment wisely and earnestly. Let that sink in deeply. Not to mourn the past, but how much of your mental energy goes into replaying old conversations, old mistakes, old wounds that can't be changed. Not to worry about the future, but how much anxiety do you generate about things that haven't happened and might never happen? To live the present moment wisely and earnestly, to be here, fully, with whatever is actually occurring, rather than whatever you wish were occurring. That's where your life actually happens. Not in memories, however vivid. Not in plans, however detailed. Right here, right now, in this breath. And the beautiful thing is you can start immediately. You don't need to wait for anything. You don't need to be more prepared, more spiritual, more anything. This moment, exactly as it is, with all its ordinariness, is your opportunity to wake up. Feel the weight of your body right now. Notice your next breath, entering and leaving. That's all it takes to begin this practice. That's all it takes to come home. If you need to pause here, that's absolutely perfect. Let these teachings settle like snow falling on still water. There's no rush to reach anywhere. Or if you're ready, let's continue walking this path together. Because presence opens the door to awakening. But the Buddha left us something even more complete, an actual map with 8 interconnected paths. Not commandments handed down from authority, not arbitrary rules to follow blindly, just the way home, discovered through his own profound journey, from suffering to freedom, from confusion to clarity. That's where we're headed next. The Buddha tried everything. Luxury that left him empty. Starvation that made him weak. And finally, sitting beneath a tree as dawn approached, he understood there must be another way. That other way became known as the middle path, and it's the heart of everything he taught. There's a story about a musical instrument called the veena, something like a sitar with strings stretched across a hollow body. If you tune the strings too loose, they produce no sound at all, just a dull thud when plucked. Tighten them too much, and they snap under the tension. But find that precise point between not too tight, not too loose, and suddenly the instrument sings with perfect resonance. That's the middle way. Not compromise, not settling for mediocrity, precision. And the Buddha mapped out exactly what that precision looks like in 8 interconnected practices. Not commandments carved in stone, not rules to follow blindly, just clear observations about how reality works and how to work with reality instead of against it. These 8 paths weave together like threads in fabric. Pull one, and all the others shift. Practice one, and you strengthen all of them. Let me show you how they live in your daily life. The first path is right view, seeing things as they actually are, rather than through the distorting lens of your desires and fears. Remember that morning coffee we traced back through time and space. Everything in it was changing, transforming, connected to everything else. Right view means recognizing that same impermanence everywhere you look. Your body is changing this very moment. Cells dying, cells being born, nothing static. Your thoughts arise and dissolve like clouds, forming and dispersing. Your relationships evolve whether you want them to or not. Everything flows. Look at a photo of yourself as a child. Is that you? Same name. Yes. But every cell in that small body has been replaced multiple times since then. Every belief you held at 5 years old has likely shifted or vanished entirely. The personality, the memories, the physical form, all transformed. So where is the real you? Right view sees this clearly. There's no fixed, unchanging self at the center. And that's not sad or frightening. It's liberating. When you see things as they truly are, suffering loses its power over you. Because suffering comes from grasping what cannot be held, from demanding permanence in a universe of constant change. Right view releases that impossible demand. From seeing clearly comes the second path, right intention. This is the decision, the commitment, the turning of your whole being toward peace and wisdom. This isn't just thinking positive thoughts. It's setting a direction for your life and choosing that direction over and over, especially when you don't feel like it. It's deciding to respond with compassion, even when anger feels justified. It's choosing generosity when your instinct is to hoard. It's opting for honesty when lying would be easier. Imagine you have a relative who's difficult, critical, demanding, never satisfied. Every visit leaves you drained and frustrated. Right intention is deciding to visit anyway, not out of guilt or obligation, but from a genuine commitment to reduce suffering where you can. Maybe they're lonely. Maybe their criticism comes from their own pain. Right intention sees beyond the surface irritation to the shared humanity underneath. The third path flows naturally from this: right speech. Your words as medicine, rather than poison. A single sentence can create a wound that lasts years. I'm sure you can remember something cutting someone said to you a decade ago, words that still sting when recalled. But equally, a few words can heal deeply. I see you. I understand. You're not alone. The Buddha taught 3 gates for speech. Before you speak, ask yourself, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? If your words can't pass through all 3 gates, perhaps silence is wiser. This doesn't mean becoming passive or dishonest. Sometimes truth is hard. Sometimes kindness means saying difficult things. But right speech avoids gossip, avoids harsh words spoken in anger, avoids empty chatter that fills silence without creating connection. It means speaking with intention and care. Right action, the 4th path, extends this care beyond words into everything you do. Not just avoiding harm, but actively creating healing wherever possible. There's a story about a woman at the grocery store who noticed someone ahead of her counting coins, clearly short of what they needed. She could have looked away, minded her own business. Instead, she quietly handed the cashier enough to cover the difference. Small action, barely noticeable. But that person went home with food instead of shame. Maybe they remembered that kindness when they saw someone else struggling. Ripples spreading outward from one small choice. Right action means living with awareness that every choice matters. How you treat the server who brings your food. Whether you pick up litter you didn't drop. How you respond when someone cuts you off in traffic. Each moment is an opportunity to add a little more kindness or a little more suffering to the world. The 5th path addresses something we often ignore: right livelihood. How you earn your living matters deeply. Does your work create suffering or reduce it? This isn't about judging anyone's profession. A corporate lawyer might practice right livelihood by ensuring justice is served. A weapons manufacturer probably isn't, regardless of skill or dedication. The question is, does this work align with reducing harm and increasing well-being? But even in difficult jobs, in work that feels meaningless or frustrating, right livelihood appears in how you show up. There's a story about a janitor at a hospital who practiced his work as sacred service. He didn't just clean floors, he created healing environments. He smiled at patients shuffling past. He worked with care and presence. His title was janitor, but his practice was that of a bodhisattva, bringing comfort to those in pain. Right Livelihood asks, can you bring consciousness and compassion to your work, whatever it is? The sixth path is right effort, and this one is subtle. It's the difference between trying and forcing, between gentle persistence and exhausting struggle. Think about planting seeds. You place them in good soil, water them, ensure they get sunlight. Then you wait. You don't dig them up daily to check progress. You don't pull on the tiny shoots to make them grow faster. You provide conditions and allow natural processes to unfold. Right effort works this way. You practice consistently without forcing results. You show up daily without demanding immediate transformation. You trust the process. Bamboo grows this way, spending years developing root systems underground before suddenly shooting upward at astonishing speed. From the surface, nothing seems to be happening for years. But underground, foundations are being laid. Then one season, growth becomes visible and rapid. Your practice may feel like that. Days or weeks where nothing seems to change. Then suddenly, you notice you responded with patience where you would have exploded before. The underground work has been happening all along. The seventh path is right mindfulness, coming back to presence again and again. We explored this already, but here's what matters. Mindfulness isn't achieved once and then maintained forever. It's practiced moment by moment by moment. Your mind will wander thousands of times during meditation. That's not failure, that's the practice. Every time you notice the wandering and return to presence, you're strengthening awareness. Every distraction recognized is a small awakening. The monk who meditates for 30 years still experiences mind wandering. The difference is they notice more quickly and return more gently. Meditation isn't a special state reserved for cushions and silence. It's training that prepares you for life. When anger arises in traffic, can you notice it arising before it controls you? When anxiety begins its familiar spiral, can you recognize the pattern before you're lost in it? That's right mindfulness in action. The eighth path completes the circle. Right concentration. One-pointed presence, undivided attention, the power of being fully here for whatever you're doing. This isn't just about sitting meditation, though that certainly develops concentration. It's about bringing complete attention to your child when they tell you about their day. It's about tasting your food fully instead of eating while scrolling. It's about listening to someone without planning your response while they speak. Our world trains us toward constant distraction, messages pinging, notifications, demanding attention, endless streams of content, fragmenting focus into smaller and smaller shards. Right concentration swims against this current. It says, this moment deserves your full presence. This person in front of you deserves your undivided attention. This task, however simple, deserves to be done with complete awareness. The Buddha expressed the power of this beautifully. Better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace. Let that settle. One word spoken with full presence, with genuine care, with complete attention, it carries more healing than volumes of empty speech. One action taken with total commitment transforms more than countless half-hearted gestures. This is the power of right concentration. And here's what's remarkable about these 8 paths. They're not separate. Practice right speech, and you naturally strengthen right action. Develop right mindfulness, and right concentration deepens automatically. See with right view, and right intention becomes clearer. They're like roots of a single tree spreading underground. You can't tell where one ends and another begins. Together, they form a complete practice for human life. Not a belief system to adopt, but a way of being to embody. Not rules to follow perfectly, but directions to move toward consistently. But even with this beautiful map, even understanding these 8 interconnected paths, you might notice something strange happening. You keep ending up in the same places. You find yourself in the same arguments with different people. The same anxieties arise with different triggers. The same patterns repeat despite your best intentions. Why? The Buddha called it the wheel. Have you ever caught yourself in the middle of an argument and suddenly thought, I've had this exact fight before? Different person, different topic maybe, but the same energy, the same dynamic, the same painful dance. Or noticed yourself reaching for your phone in that familiar way, seeking something you can't quite name, scrolling for satisfaction that never comes, then doing it again 20 minutes later. Or found yourself anxious about something new, but with a quality of anxiety that feels ancient and familiar, like you've carried this particular flavor of worry your whole life. The Buddha called this samsara, the wheel of repetitive patterns, cycling endlessly until we learn to step off. Now, traditional Buddhism speaks of samsara as the cycle of death and rebirth across lifetimes. Maybe that's true, maybe it's metaphor, I can't tell you with certainty. But what I can tell you with absolute certainty is this: samsara is definitely real within this one life. Same reactions to stress, just different stressors. Same patterns in relationships, just different partners. Same emotional loops, just different circumstances triggering them. The wheel keeps spinning, and we keep riding it, often without realizing we're on it at all. The Buddha identified 3 things that keep the wheel turning, 3 forces that trap us in repetition. He called them the 3 poisons, but they're really 3 kinds of blindness. The first is ignorance, and this doesn't mean stupidity or lack of education. It means not seeing clearly, not recognizing reality as it actually is. Imagine looking in a mirror and thinking your reflection is another person standing there. You might try to talk to them, get frustrated when they mimic your movements, feel confused about why they won't respond properly. That's ignorance, mistaking appearance for reality. We do this constantly. We see impermanent things and treat them as permanent. We see interconnected processes and mistake them for separate, independent entities. We see the flow of change and try to freeze it, to hold it still, to make it stay exactly as it is right now. Then we suffer when reality refuses to cooperate with our misperception. The second poison is craving, this insatiable hunger for more, for different, for better. The next job will finally bring fulfillment. The next relationship will complete you. The next purchase will bring lasting satisfaction. The next achievement will prove your worth once and for all. Spoiler, it won't. Not because jobs, or relationships, or achievements are bad, but because craving has no bottom. It's not actually about the thing being craved. It's about the craving itself, an internal restlessness that latches on to whatever's nearby. Feed it, and it grows hungrier. Satisfy one craving, and 3 more immediately appear. The third poison is aversion, pushing away what we don't want with the same energy we grasp at what we do want. Running from pain creates more pain, because now you have the original pain plus the suffering of running. Resisting grief extends grief because you're fighting against a natural process that needs to complete itself. Avoiding discomfort means carrying that discomfort with you everywhere, always vigilant, always on guard. What we avoid follows us like a shadow. These 3 keep the wheel spinning, not seeing clearly, craving what we don't have, pushing away what we do have. And they create 6 different realms we cycle through, 6 states of mind the ancient teachers described as different worlds. The God realm is when everything seems perfect. Life is going well, you're comfortable, maybe even a bit proud of how well you're doing. But there's a danger here, complacency. Without challenge, without friction, growth stops. You become soft, unprepared for inevitable change. Then when difficulty comes, and it always comes, you're crushed because you believed the ease would last forever. The Titan realm is constant competition, endless striving, never being satisfied with where you are because someone else is ahead. You check others' social media and feel inadequate. You achieve something and immediately spot the next rung up the ladder. Success brings no peace because the finish line keeps moving. Exhaustion is the atmosphere of this realm. The human realm is where you are right now, aware, seeking, capable of reflection. There's suffering here, yes, but also the possibility of awakening. This is actually the best realm for spiritual growth because you have enough discomfort to seek change, but enough capacity to actually do something about it. This is where the path becomes possible. The animal realm is pure survival mode, just getting through the day without deeper reflection or questioning. You wake, work, Eat, sleep, repeat. No time or energy for examining your life because you're too busy just living it. Many people spend years here without realizing it. The hungry ghost realm is endless wanting without satisfaction. Traditional images show beings with tiny mouths and enormous empty bellies, taking in a little but needing so much more. This is addiction, whether to substances, achievement, validation, or just the next moment being different from this one. Always hungry, never full, no matter how much you consume. The hell realm is being consumed by rage, despair, or hatred. The world becomes hostile, everyone an enemy or a fool. Every interaction confirms your darkest beliefs. Pain and anger feed each other in a vicious cycle until nothing else exists. Some people visit this realm briefly during crisis. Others get trapped there for years. And here's what the Buddha wants you to understand. You visit all 6 realms in a single week, maybe in a single day. Morning feels like the God realm. Coffee tastes perfect. You're rested. Everything seems manageable. By noon, you're in the Titan realm, comparing yourself to a colleague's success. Afternoon brings the animal realm, just pushing through tasks mechanically. Evening might drop you into the hungry ghost realm, scrolling endlessly for something to fill the emptiness. Before bed, a moment of clarity, the human realm, recognizing these patterns. The wheel keeps turning, carrying you through these states, and you might not even notice the transitions. You might think this is just how life is, ups and downs, good days and bad days, the nature of existence. But the wheel only keeps turning as long as you keep feeding it, as long as you remain ignorant of how it works, as long as you keep grasping and pushing away. The moment you see the wheel turning, something shifts. The moment you recognize the pattern in the middle of the pattern, you're already beginning to step off. The Buddha said it simply: the root of suffering is attachment. Breathe with that truth. Not attachment to things, though that's part of it. Attachment to how things should be. Attachment to your story about who you are. Attachment to beliefs about how life ought to work. Attachment to permanence in a universe that only knows change. But attached to what, exactly? That's where the Buddha's most liberating truth comes in. And it might sound scary at first, but I promise, it's the most freeing thing you'll ever hear. Who are you? Not what do you do, or what's your name, or what roles you play. Who are you actually? What is this self you've been protecting and defending and building your entire life? Try this experiment with me. Think of a photograph of yourself as a child, maybe 5 or 6 years old. Look at that child in your mind's eye. Is that you? Same name? Certainly. But is it the same person? The body in that photo has been entirely replaced at the cellular level at least twice since then, maybe 3 or 4 times, depending on your current age. Every 7 years or so, most of your cells die, and new ones take their place. The physical form you called you then literally doesn't exist anymore. What about your thoughts? Are the thoughts you're thinking now the same thoughts that child thought? Of course not. Thoughts arise and dissolve moment by moment. The specific content of your mind at age 6 is completely gone, replaced by entirely different concerns, ideas, and mental patterns. Your beliefs? At 6, you believed in things you don't believe now. You've changed your mind about politics, relationships, what matters in life, maybe even fundamental questions about reality. Beliefs shift and transform. Your memories? Research shows that memories change every time we recall them, subtly altering with each remembering. That story you tell about your childhood, it's not a fixed recording, but a constantly evolving narrative, shaped by present concerns and emotions. Even your memories aren't stable. Your name? That's just a label others gave you, a sound they made to get your attention. You could change it tomorrow and still be you, right? So where is the real, unchanging, essential you? This is what the Buddha discovered, and what confused and frightened his students at first. There's no solid, unchanging self at the center. You're not a thing. You're a process. You're more like a river than a rock. A river flows continuously, never the same water from one moment to the next. Yet, we call it by one name: the Mississippi, the Ganges, the Thames. The river is real, but it's not a fixed entity. It's a continuous process of flowing, changing, being fed by countless tributaries, losing water to evaporation, carving new channels, flooding and receding. You can't step in the same river twice, because it's literally not the same river. That's what you are, a flowing process, always continuous, but never static. And why does this matter so much? Because of what it frees you from. The ego spends its entire existence defending something that doesn't exist, taking offense at imagined attacks on an imaginary solid self, fearing loss of something it never actually had, building walls around emptiness, protecting a ghost. When you see through this, when you really understand there's no fixed self to defend, lightness arrives. Someone criticizes you, and instead of that old contraction of hurt, there's space. Space to hear what might be useful in the criticism without taking it as an attack on your core being, because there is no core being in that solid sense. There's just this moment's experience, already changing into the next moment's experience. Now, this teaching can sound nihilistic at first. If there's no self, does that mean you don't matter? That your life is meaningless? That you should just give up on everything? The opposite is true. This doesn't mean you don't matter. It means you're not separate. You're the river itself, not something riding in a boat on the river. You're the ocean pretending to be a wave for a brief, beautiful moment. And when the wave understands it's made of ocean, all fear of dissolution vanishes. The wave doesn't die when it crashes on the shore. It returns to what it always was. The Buddha's words echo across time with gentle precision. In the end, only three things matter: how much you loved, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go of things not meant for you. Let those words sink deep, not into some permanent self, but into this present awareness that's reading them. Breathe here. Let that land. There's no rush to move forward. There's nowhere to get to. So if there's no fixed self, how do we actually live? What does it look like to walk through the world understanding this truth? Does it mean becoming passive, detached, indifferent to life? Let me show you what it really means. The Buddha almost died trying to find enlightenment. This isn't metaphor or exaggeration. He literally pushed his body to the edge of death, believing that extreme self-denial would reveal ultimate truth. He was a prince who had everything, so he tried having nothing. He ate 1 grain of rice per day. His ribs protruded so sharply you could count them through his skin. His eyes sank deep into his skull. Other ascetics looked at him with respect, even awe, because surely someone suffering this much must be close to enlightenment. But he wasn't. He was just starving. One day, weak and dizzy, on the verge of death, a young woman passed by and offered him a bowl of milk rice. Something in him recognized the absurdity of what he'd been doing. He accepted the bowl. He ate. The other ascetics were horrified. They mocked him, called him weak, said he'd given up on the spiritual path. They abandoned him there by the river. But he didn't care anymore because he'd discovered something more valuable than their approval: balance. That evening, with strength returning to his body, he sat beneath a fig tree and finally understood. The path wasn't deprivation or indulgence. It wasn't punishing the body or drowning in pleasure. It was the precise point between, like tuning that musical string to the exact tension where it could sing. This became the heart of everything he taught, the middle way. And it's shockingly relevant to how you live right now, this morning, this afternoon, tonight. Take your phone, that device, probably within arm's reach, right now. One extreme is throwing it away entirely, rejecting technology, disconnecting from the world. The other extreme is what most of us do, scrolling mindlessly for hours, checking it first thing in the morning and last thing at night, interrupting every conversation to glance at the screen. The middle way. Use it consciously when it serves you, then put it down. Check messages at designated times rather than compulsively every few minutes. Be present with the person in front of you. Then later, be present with the person on the screen. Not rigid rules, but conscious choices. Your body follows the same pattern. One extreme is punishing exercise, pushing past injury, treating your body like an enemy to be conquered or disciplined into submission. The other extreme is complete neglect, numbing yourself with excess, ignoring signals of discomfort or pain. The middle way is respectful care, moving your body because it feels good to move, resting when rest is needed, eating in a way that energizes rather than dulls, listening to what your body actually needs rather than what magazines or social media insist you should do to it. Work becomes a practice ground for this balance. Burnout is one extreme, every waking hour devoted to productivity, self-worth measured by output, rest treated as laziness. Apathy is the other, showing up physically, but checked out mentally, doing the bare minimum, counting minutes until freedom. The middle way is engaged presence, bringing your full attention while you're working, then fully releasing work when you leave. Caring about your contribution without letting it consume your identity. Recognizing that your value isn't determined by your productivity. Relationships reveal this dance between extremes most clearly. Codependence is one edge, losing yourself in another person, needing them to complete you. Anxiety spiking whenever they're not available. Isolation is the opposite edge. Walls so high no one can reach you. Independence hardening into loneliness. Self-protection becoming self-imprisonment. The middle way is connected autonomy, being fully yourself while also opening to deep connection. Loving without needing to possess. Being intimate without losing your center. Offering support while respecting boundaries. This might be the hardest balance to find and the most essential. Notice where you swing to extremes in your own life. That's your edge. That's where your particular work lies. One person's middle way with food might look extreme to someone else because we all start from different places. The invitation isn't to copy someone else's balance, but to discover your own. Freedom waits there at your edge, in that sweet spot between too tight and too loose. But balance alone isn't enough. You could have perfect equilibrium in all these areas and still feel hollow inside, still disconnected from life's deeper meaning. There's something that makes everything else work, something that transforms the path from intellectual concept into lived reality. The Buddha called it the heart of the teaching, compassion. What if I told you everyone you meet is you? Not metaphorically, not poetically, but literally true in the deepest sense. Everyone you encounter is an expression of the same consciousness, experiencing itself from a different angle. We live with a powerful illusion of separation. We think in terms of me versus them, my needs versus your needs, my happiness or yours. We draw hard lines around this body, this personality, this collection of thoughts, and call it fundamentally separate from everything else. But remember what we explored about interdependence. Nothing exists in isolation. You're made of non-you elements, food that became your body, ideas that became your thoughts, love that became your capacity to care. The boundary between self and other is far more porous than it appears. Your suffering is my suffering, even if I don't realize it yet. When one part of the web trembles, the whole web trembles. We just haven't developed the sensitivity to feel it fully. Compassion is that sensitivity awakening. It's seeing yourself in others, and others in yourself, until the distinction starts to blur. The practice has layers, like learning an instrument, starting with easy songs and gradually building skill for more complex pieces. For those you love, compassion flows naturally and easily. You see their goodness clearly. Wishing them happiness requires no effort. You genuinely want their joy. When they suffer, you feel it in your own chest. This is compassion in its most instinctive form, the baseline from which you'll expand. For strangers, compassion becomes training. The cashier scanning your groceries with exhaustion written across their face, can you see them? Not as a function or a service provider, but as a whole human being having a difficult day? The driver who cut you off in traffic, the person walking too slowly on the sidewalk, the telemarketer interrupting your dinner, each one carries a complete life you know nothing about. There's a saying worth remembering: be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. You don't see the battles. The cashier's child might be sick. The driver might have just received devastating news. The slow walker might be recovering from surgery. You can't know their story, so err on the side of kindness. For difficult people, compassion reaches its peak as genuine spiritual practice. This is mastery-level work. Someone who hurt you, who betrayed your trust, who said something cruel that still echoes in your mind years later, can you find compassion for them? This doesn't mean condoning their actions. It doesn't mean allowing continued harm or pretending it didn't hurt. It means recognizing that hurt people hurt people. Their cruelty came from their own unhealed wounds, their own confusion, their own suffering. There's a story about a man in a grocery store who was rude and aggressive to everyone around him, snapping at the staff, being impatient, radiating hostility. People gave him angry looks, muttered under their breath about his behavior. Then someone overheard him on the phone in the parking lot. His wife had just left him that morning, taking their children. Suddenly, his behavior made sense. It didn't excuse it, but it explained it. Compassion arose naturally once the context was visible. The truth is, everyone acting badly has a context you can't see. Everyone lashing out is bleeding from somewhere. Compassion doesn't require knowing the specific wound, just recognizing that it exists. But there's one person most of us struggle to feel compassion for more than anyone else: ourselves. We're often cruelest to ourselves. That voice in your head that criticizes every mistake, that replays your failures, that tells you you're not enough, not trying hard enough, not good enough, not lovable enough. Would you let someone else talk to you that way? Would you let a friend berate your child with that harshness? Of course not. Yet you let that voice run unchallenged in your own mind. Self-compassion isn't selfish or indulgent. It's foundational. You genuinely cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot offer others what you refuse to give yourself. Treating yourself with harshness doesn't make you strong or disciplined. It makes you fragile and defensive. The Buddha's words on this are unequivocal. You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. Let that truth settle into your bones. As much as anybody, not less. Not after everyone else is taken care of. As much. Let's try something together, right now. Just for a moment. Bring to mind someone you love deeply, a child, a partner, a dear friend, someone whose happiness matters to you. Feel that warmth in your chest, that natural affection. Now, silently, say these words to them. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be free from suffering. Notice how natural that feels, how much you genuinely want those things for them. Now, and this might be harder, say the same thing to yourself. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be free from suffering. Notice how that feels. Maybe uncomfortable, maybe awkward, maybe like you don't quite deserve it. Maybe surprisingly tender, like a door you didn't know existed, just opened a crack. That feeling, whatever it is important information. That's where your work with self-compassion begins. Compassion is the heart of the path, the force that animates everything else. Without it, the eightfold path becomes a set of rules you follow to feel superior. With it, the path becomes a natural expression of caring for all beings, including yourself. But there's a practice that trains everything we've been discussing: your attention, your awareness, your capacity to be with what is, rather than what you wish it were. And it's simpler than you might think. You don't have to sit cross-legged on a cushion to meditate. You don't need special equipment, or perfect conditions, or years of preparation. But I'll tell you what meditation actually is, and you can decide how to practice it in your own life. First, let's clear away what meditation isn't. It's not about emptying your mind of all thoughts. That's impossible while you're alive. Thoughts are what minds do, like breathing is what lungs do. Trying to stop thoughts is like trying to stop your heart from beating, misguided, and exhausting. Meditation isn't a blissful escape from reality where you float away on clouds of peace. Sometimes it's peaceful, yes, but sometimes it's uncomfortable, boring, frustrating, or filled with difficult emotions. It's not about feeling a certain way. It's not a special state of consciousness, available only to spiritual adepts. It's not religious ritual, though religious people certainly practice it. You don't need to believe anything or join anything to meditate. So what is it? Meditation is watching the river of thoughts without jumping in. It's observing the mind's activity without getting swept away by it. Just watching. Imagine you're sitting beside a river. Leaves and twigs float past on the current. You don't jump in to grab them. You don't try to stop the flow. You just sit and watch things drift by. That's what meditation does with thoughts. The breath becomes your anchor in this practice, always available, always with you. You feel it entering your nostrils, cool and fresh. You notice your chest or belly rising slightly. You sense the pause at the top of the inhale, then the release, the exhale flowing out. Over and over, this simple rhythm that's kept you alive since birth. And your mind will wander. This isn't failure. This is guaranteed. Within seconds, you'll be planning dinner, or replaying a conversation, or wondering if you're doing this right. That's absolutely normal. The practice is noticing when your mind has wandered and gently returning to the breath. That return is the meditation. Not staying focused for long periods, but returning again and again when you notice you've drifted. You might return 1,000 times in 10 minutes. Each return is a small awakening, a moment of choosing presence over distraction. You don't fail at meditation when your mind wanders. The wandering is the meditation. The noticing is the meditation. The returning is the meditation. All of it together is the practice. As you develop stability with the breath, meditation naturally deepens into what's called vipassana, seeing clearly, insight meditation. You expand your awareness beyond just breathing. Notice body sensations, the pressure of your seat, tingling in your hands, warmth or coolness, tension or ease. You're not trying to change anything, just observing what's actually present. Notice sounds, birds outside, traffic humming, the refrigerator cycling on, your own heartbeat. Let sounds come and go, without labeling or judging them as good or bad, pleasant or unpleasant. Notice emotions arising and passing through like weather systems moving across the sky. Anxiety appears, peaks, fades. Sadness wells up, lingers, dissipates. Joy bubbles through, sparkles, settles. You're not controlling them or pushing them away. You're simply observing them happening. And here's the revolutionary part, the insight that changes everything. You start to see that thoughts aren't you. They're weather passing through your inner sky. You are the sky itself, vast and unchanging, while thoughts are just clouds drifting across. This understanding transforms your relationship with your own mind. That anxious thought about tomorrow doesn't define you. It's just a thought arising in awareness. That harsh self-judgment isn't the truth about who you are. It's just another cloud passing through. You are the spacious awareness in which all these mental events occur. But meditation isn't limited to sitting on a cushion in silence. That formal practice trains you, strengthens your attention, but the real meditation is everywhere. Washing dishes becomes meditation when you feel the warm water. Notice the slickness of soap. Hear the gentle clink of plates without your mind being somewhere else. That's meditation. Walking becomes meditation when you feel each foot contacting the ground. Sense your weight shifting. Notice the rhythm of your stride, while your mind stays with the actual experience of walking. That's meditation. Listening to someone speak becomes meditation when you're fully receiving their words, without planning your response, without judging what they're saying, just being present to their expression. That's meditation. Anything done with full presence, without the mind splitting off into past or future, is meditation in action. There's a beautiful Zen story about this. A student approached the master and asked earnestly, "What is enlightenment?" The master looked up from the vegetables he was preparing and said, "When you wash rice, wash rice. When you chop vegetables, chop vegetables." The student was confused, probably disappointed by such a simple answer. He wanted something profound, some secret teaching, some complex practice. The master smiled gently. "That's it. That's the whole thing. When you do what you're doing, fully present to the doing, not wishing you were somewhere else, or someone else, or doing something else, that's enlightenment, available in ordinary moments." The Buddha said this with characteristic clarity. Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. Simple instruction. Extremely difficult to maintain, but possible to practice, moment by moment. These practices, the middle way, compassion, meditation, they sound beautiful when you're calm and centered, listening or reading in a quiet moment. But how do they actually work on a Tuesday morning when you're running late for work and someone cuts you off in traffic? That's the real test, isn't it? The Buddha never said you had to go to a monastery. He never suggested that spiritual practice happens somewhere separate from ordinary life. He said simply, wherever you are, be awake there. Your kitchen becomes a temple when you practice there. Your commute becomes a meditation hall when you bring awareness to it. Your difficult conversation becomes a training ground when you stay present through it. Morning offers your first opportunity, that moment when you transition from sleep to waking, before you grab your phone, before thoughts fully form, one conscious breath, right there. Just one. Feel yourself breathing. Recognize, I'm alive. This is a gift. Not as a thought to think, but as a truth to feel. Eating becomes practice when you give one bite your full attention. Not every bite. That might be unrealistic at first. But one bite where you actually taste the food, feel its texture, notice its temperature, recognize the extraordinary fact that this food exists and is nourishing your body. Gratitude arises naturally from that attention, not as a performance or a should, but as a genuine response to actually experiencing what you're receiving. Walking anywhere, to your car, to the bathroom, down the hallway, feel your feet. The ground is supporting you completely, reliably, always there beneath you. Each step is arriving, not just going somewhere, but being somewhere with each foot placement. You're not trying to get anywhere, you're experiencing being exactly where you are with each step. Working, even boring or frustrating work, becomes a training ground for presence. Answering emails with full attention to each one, rather than rushing through on autopilot. Meetings become opportunities to practice deep listening instead of waiting for your turn to talk. Even mundane tasks, filing, organizing, data entry, can you be awake while doing them? Can you feel your hands moving, notice your breath continuing? Stay present with what is, rather than wishing you were doing something else. Speaking consciously transforms your relationships. Pause before responding. Just 1 second of space between hearing and speaking. In that pause, ask, is this necessary? Will these words create peace or conflict? Am I speaking from presence or reacting from old patterns? Your words are seeds planted in the world. Choose them with awareness of what you're planting. Listening might be the hardest practice of all. Really listening, not waiting for your turn to talk, not formulating responses while the other person is still speaking, not judging or comparing or agreeing or disagreeing, just receiving what they're offering. The gift of being truly heard is so rare in our world. When you offer that gift through genuine listening, you're practicing profound compassion. Difficult moments test everything you've learned. Someone honks aggressively behind you. Can you feel the anger arising in your body before you react? Notice the heat, the tightening, the impulse to honk back or shout or make a gesture. In the space between their honk and your response, freedom lives. That space is where you can choose how to respond rather than reacting automatically from conditioning. Evening becomes a time for gentle reflection without harsh judgment. Where were you awake today? Where were you asleep? Running on autopilot? Not beating yourself up for the moments you missed, but simply noticing with kind awareness. Tomorrow brings another opportunity, another day of practice, another chance to show up more fully to your own life. You don't need to be perfect at any of this. Perfection isn't the goal and wouldn't be useful if it were possible. You just need to notice. Notice when you're present. Notice when you're not present. Notice the difference between the two states. The noticing itself is awakening happening in real time. As you practice this way, really practice it, not just think about practicing it. Something begins to shift. You start to see what the Buddha saw 2,500 years ago under that tree. Something that changes everything about how you experience the world and your place in it. You start to notice that nothing exists in isolation, that you're intimately connected to everything around you in ways both obvious and subtle. Your breath contains oxygen created by trees halfway around the world. Your thoughts are shaped by conversations, books, experiences stretching back before your birth. Your actions ripple outward, touching lives you'll never meet. The hard boundary you drew between self and other begins to soften, blur, reveal itself as more permeable than you thought. That insight takes us deeper still, into understanding how profoundly interconnected all of existence truly is. Pick up anything near you right now, anything at all. Maybe a cup sitting on the table, your phone in your hand, a piece of fruit in the kitchen. Now let me show you how it contains the entire universe. Let's say you picked up an apple. Simple, ordinary, unremarkable. But look deeper. That apple came from a tree, obviously. But before the tree, there was a seed. Before the seed, there was a parent tree that produced it. Before that tree, another seed, another tree, back through countless generations of apple trees stretching into deep time. The soil that fed the seed, it was made from decomposed leaves, broken down rock, the remains of countless organisms that lived and died to create that rich earth. Millions of years of geological processes ground mountains into minerals. Billions of bacteria worked invisibly to transform matter into nutrients. Rain watered that soil. Where did the rain come from? Oceans heated by the sun, water evaporating, rising, condensing into clouds, traveling on winds shaped by the Earth's rotation and temperature gradients. The rain connects your apple to every ocean on the planet. The sun that warmed both rain and tree, a star burning 93 million miles away, fusing hydrogen into helium, releasing photons that traveled through space for 8 minutes before touching those apple blossoms. Your apple is made of sunlight transformed into sugar through photosynthesis, that miraculous process of turning light into life. A farmer planted the orchard years ago. That farmer learned from their parents, who learned from their parents, knowledge passed down through generations. The farmer ate food grown by other farmers, drank water from distant watersheds, breathed air created by forests and plankton. The farmer's entire life, with all its joys and struggles, is woven into this apple. Hands picked the apple at just the right moment of ripeness. Hands belonging to someone with their own story, their own family, their own dreams and disappointments. Maybe they were thinking about their children while picking. Maybe they were worrying about bills or remembering a joke someone told. Their consciousness, their humanity, touched this fruit. A truck transported it, burning fuel refined from ancient organisms, compressed over millions of years into oil. The driver navigated roads built by workers using materials mined from the earth, and refined through industrial processes. The truck itself was designed by engineers, manufactured by assembly line workers, shipped from factories powered by electricity, generated at distant power plants. The store that sold it employed people who stocked shelves, managed inventory, operated cash registers. You bought it with money earned through your own labor, work made possible by education you received from teachers who devoted their lives to passing on knowledge they received from their teachers, back through an unbroken chain of human learning stretching to the first person who ever taught anything to anyone. Back and back and back, threads of connection extending in every direction through time and space. There's nothing in that apple that's apple alone. It's made entirely of non-apple elements: sunlight, soil, water, human labor, geological time, cosmic processes. Remove any one of those elements, and you have no apple. And so are you. You're made of your mother's body, the literal substance of her that became the substance of you. The food you've eaten through your entire life, plants and animals that gave their existence to continue yours. Every meal you've ever consumed is now walking around as part of your body. You're made of words you've heard, language that shaped how you think, stories that formed your understanding of what's possible, conversations that altered the direction of your life. Ideas from books written by people you'll never meet live in your mind, as if they were your own thoughts. You're made of pain you've survived, experiences that felt like they would break you, but instead broke you open, creating space for wisdom and compassion you couldn't access before. You're made of love you've received, every kind word, every supportive presence, every moment someone saw you truly and accepted what they saw. Every person you've ever met has left traces in you. The teacher who believed in you changed your trajectory. The friend who betrayed you taught you something about trust and boundaries. The stranger who smiled at you on a difficult day reminded you that kindness exists. They're all in you now, part of the fabric of who you've become. Every moment you've lived has shaped this moment. You're not a fixed thing, but a process, a flowing together of countless causes and conditions. A verb disguised as a noun. The Vietnamese monk Thich Nhat Hanh created a word for this reality: interbeing. Not being, but interbeing. We inter-are. You can't be by yourself alone. You can only interbe with everything else. Why does this matter so profoundly? For gratitude, first of all. When you see how nothing is truly yours in the sense of being independent and self-created, gratitude becomes a natural response to existence itself. The meal you eat represents infinite generosity. Not just the obvious generosity of whoever prepared it or paid for it, but the generosity of soil and sun and rain, of farmers and truckers and grocery workers, of plants giving themselves to become your nourishment you're receiving constantly, every moment, from the entire universe. Nothing you have is really yours in the possessive sense. It's all borrowed, all gift, all temporary. Even your body is borrowed from the earth and will return to it. This recognition doesn't diminish life. It deepens appreciation for the miracle of having anything at all. For responsibility, this understanding transforms everything. Your actions ripple outward through the web of connection in ways you can't fully track. Harm anyone, and you harm yourself because there's no real separation, only apparent boundaries. Help anyone, and you help yourself through the same interconnection. There is no way to throw things. Trash goes somewhere, affects something, enters the cycle. Carbon emissions warm the atmosphere that surrounds us all. Plastic in the ocean becomes plastic in fish, becomes plastic in your body. Every action has consequences that return, perhaps not directly, but inevitably through the interconnected web. For compassion, interbeing provides the deepest foundation possible. Their suffering is your suffering, not because you should care out of some moral obligation, but because at the deepest level, there's no actual separation between you and them. The boundaries we draw are conventions, useful for navigation, but not ultimately real. Like drawing a line in the ocean and saying this water is separate from that water. The line exists only in concept, not in the flowing reality of the sea. There's an old story about two wolves worth remembering here. A grandfather tells his grandson, "There are two wolves fighting inside me. One is anger, greed, resentment, lies, ego. The other is love, compassion, peace, truth, humility." The boy asks with concern, "Which one wins?" The grandfather answers, "The one I feed." It's a good story, popular for good reason. But the Buddha would add something crucial. Both wolves are fed by everyone. We're all feeding all the wolves together through the interconnected web of cause and effect. When you feed the wolf of anger in yourself, you're strengthening anger in the collective field of consciousness we all share. When you feed the wolf of compassion, you're making compassion more accessible to everyone. Your inner work is never just personal. It's always, also, transpersonal, affecting the whole. Let yourself feel that interconnection right now. You're not alone. You've never been alone. Every breath you take connects you to trees and algae, producing oxygen. Every thought you think participates in the larger field of human consciousness. Every action you take sends ripples through the whole. This isn't abstract philosophy. It's the most practical truth there is. And if everything's connected, if nothing stands alone, if we're all woven together in this vast web of mutual dependence, what happens when the thread breaks? What about death? This is where the Buddha's teaching becomes truly radical, truly liberating. We spend our whole lives pretending death isn't real. And that's exactly why we suffer. The modern world hides death with remarkable efficiency. People die in hospitals behind closed doors, tended by professionals, removed from the everyday flow of life. We use euphemisms: passed away, lost someone, no longer with us. Passed away to where? Lost how, if you know exactly where the body is? These phrases shield us from the direct confrontation with death's reality. We'll speak about anything except the one absolute certainty awaiting every single one of us. We'll obsess over minor uncertainties. What if it rains? What if they don't like me? What if the economy crashes? While ignoring the massive certainty we know is coming. The Buddha took the opposite approach. He told his monks to meditate on death daily, not to be morbid or depressed or nihilistic, to wake up. Try this meditation with me right now. Just as a thought experiment, nothing heavy or frightening. Imagine you have 1 week left to live, 7 days. Not from illness or anything painful, just an arbitrary endpoint to this particular life. What changes? Do you care what strangers think of you? Does their judgment carry any weight at all when you have only 7 days? Do you spend 3 hours scrolling through social media? Does the manufactured drama of online life seem important? Do you hold on to grudges? Does being right in that old argument matter when time is that short? Do you hesitate to say I love you to the people who matter? Do you keep waiting for the right moment? Notice what becomes clear with that short timeline. Notice what falls away as obviously unimportant, and what stands out as genuinely meaningful. That clarity, that's what death gives us when we face it honestly instead of avoiding it. We don't have to wait until we're actually dying to live with that clarity. We can live now as if this moment matters profoundly, because it does. We can prioritize now what we'd prioritize with a week left, because the truth is we might have only a week left, and we just don't know it. Impermanence isn't just about death at the end of life. It's everywhere, all the time, in every moment. Seasons change in their eternal cycle, spring's explosion of life, giving way to summer's fullness, giving way to autumn's release, giving way to winter's rest. Your face in the mirror ages gradually but relentlessly, tiny changes accumulating into the unmistakable passage of time. Children grow from helpless infants to independent adults in what feels like a blink, each stage passing before you fully grasped it. Flowers bloom in glory and fade in days, sometimes hours. That bloom you loved this morning has dropped its petals by evening. Every breath you take can't be held. Try it, and you'll either exhale or pass out. Even breath itself demonstrates impermanence, this constant flow of taking in and letting go. Watch an autumn leaf fall when you get the chance. Really watch it. It doesn't resist the separation from the branch. It doesn't cling screaming, "But I'm not ready." It simply releases and falls, spiraling gracefully down, landing softly on the earth. There it decomposes, becomes soil, feeds next spring's growth. The cycle continues, Nothing truly lost, just transformed. That's the natural way of things. We're the only creatures who resist it, who think we should be the exception to this universal pattern. Buddhism teaches that what happens after death depends on karma, on the patterns of consciousness we've cultivated during life. Maybe there's literal rebirth into a new body. The tradition certainly teaches that. But whether or not that's literally true, something else is definitely verifiably true. Dying happens every moment. Every exhale is a small death, a letting go, a release, an ending. Every inhale is rebirth, a taking in, a renewal, a beginning. You're not the same person you were yesterday. That person died when you went to sleep. This person was born when you woke. The cells are different. The thoughts are different. The precise configuration of who you are has shifted. Death isn't just this one big event at the end. It's happening constantly, every moment, as one configuration gives way to the next. You're dying and being reborn continuously. When you truly understand this, the final death becomes less frightening. It's just one more instance of what's been happening all along. Traditional Buddhism speaks of the bardo, the in-between state, after death, but before the next birth. The texts describe it as a period where the mind experiences vivid visions, projections of its own consciousness. Those with wisdom recognize these appearances as empty, as projections, and aren't caught by them. Those with strong attachments and aversions get pulled by their reactions, drawn toward the next birth. But here's the teaching that matters most practically. You die as you lived. If you lived with fear dominating your days, you'll face death with fear. If you lived grasping desperately at control, you'll grasp desperately in those final moments. If you learn to let go in small ways throughout your life, letting go of anger when it arises, letting go of how things should be, letting go of grudges and resentments, then death is just one more letting go. Familiar territory, practiced ground. There's a Zen story about a master on his deathbed. His students gathered around weeping, devastated at losing their teacher. The master looked at them and laughed, not cruelly, but with genuine amusement and lightness. "What's all the fuss about?" he asked. "I've been practicing this moment my whole life." Every time you practice presence, you're preparing for death. Every time you release an emotion without getting hooked by it, you're learning how to let go of the biggest thing. Every time you accept change instead of resisting it, you're making friends with impermanence. Every time you stop clinging to how things should be and accept how things are, you're practicing for the ultimate letting go. You're learning to be free from the fear that makes life small and anxious. The Buddha said something that hits differently depending on when you hear it. The trouble is, you think you have time. Let that land fully. Let it penetrate your habitual assumptions about having tomorrow. You might have time, you might have decades, or you might not. None of us actually knows. The assumption of time is just that, an assumption, not a guarantee. Death isn't the enemy here. Forgetting we'll die is the enemy. Because when you remember, truly remember, not just intellectually, but in your bones, everything changes. Life becomes precious instead of taken for granted. This moment becomes everything instead of just a stepping stone to some future moment that will finally be the right one. People become treasured instead of obstacles or tools. Petty concerns reveal themselves as petty. What truly matters stands out in sharp relief. This isn't morbid. It's the most life-affirming practice there is. And when you see death clearly, when you see that everything passes, including this temporary configuration you call yourself, something profound shifts in your priorities. You stop living exclusively for yourself alone. You start to see a bigger purpose, a larger frame for existence. The Buddha had a word for people who wake up this way: bodhisattva. What if you woke up tomorrow and decided, I won't be fully free until everyone is free? What if your liberation became inseparable from the liberation of all beings? That's the bodhisattva path, and it's not as impossible or as saintly as it sounds. A bodhisattva is someone who sees the exit from suffering but turns back. They understand the door, know how to walk through it, but they pause and think, I'm not leaving until everyone can come with me. This isn't martyrdom or self-sacrifice in the painful sense. It's recognition. When you truly understand into being, when you see that separation is illusion, it becomes obvious that no one is truly free, while others suffer. Your peace is incomplete, while your neighbor is drowning in despair. Your joy is provisional, while children go hungry. Your enlightenment is partial, while others remain in darkness. Not because you should feel guilty about your own well-being, but because, at the deepest level, there's no your well-being separate from their well-being. The Bodhisattva takes 4 great vows that sound utterly impossible. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them all. Delusions are endless. I vow to cut through them. Teachings are infinite. I vow to learn them. The Buddha's way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Of course, it's impossible. That's precisely the point. It's not about achieving success and checking these items off a cosmic to-do list. It's about direction, about orienting your entire life toward the welfare of all beings. Every single act of kindness is freeing all beings, because we're all connected. When you help one person find peace, you've added peace to the collective consciousness we all share. When you embody compassion in one moment, you've made compassion more available everywhere. The work is never wasted, never futile, even when results aren't visible. And the modern bodhisattva isn't necessarily a monk on a mountain or a renowned teacher. It's you, right where you are, in your ordinary life. It's the teacher who stays late to help a struggling student, not for recognition, but because that's what's needed. The nurse who holds a dying patient's hand when there's nothing medical left to do. The stranger who stops to help someone whose car broke down on the highway. The person who listens deeply when everyone else is too busy or distracted. The friend who shows up again and again, even when it's inconvenient. Small acts done with full presence and genuine care. That's the Bodhisattva path in action. There's a beautiful paradox at the heart of this practice. When you stop trying to save yourself and focus instead on serving others, you save yourself. When you release your fixation on your own enlightenment and work toward others' freedom, you become free. It works because self-concern is the root of suffering. The constant monitoring of, am I okay? Do I have enough? Am I safe? Do people like me? That vigilant self-referencing creates the prison. When you shift attention away from yourself and toward how you can help, that prison dissolves not through effort, but through redirection. I'll tell you a story about a bodhisattva in a grocery store. Nothing dramatic, nothing that would make the news. She was standing in line waiting to check out. The person ahead of her was counting out coins, clearly short of what they needed, embarrassed and stressed. The cashier was getting impatient. People behind were sighing. She simply handed the cashier a few dollars to cover the difference. No big deal from her perspective. Just what was needed in that moment. But for that person, they were having the worst day of their month. Lost their job, worried about rent, feeling like the universe was hostile. That small gesture changed something fundamental, reminded them that humans can be kind, that strangers sometimes help for no reason, that goodness exists in the world. They went home in a completely different state. Instead of collapsing in despair, they felt enough hope to call their sister they'd been fighting with for months. They reconciled. The sister, relieved and happy, had energy that evening to help her elderly neighbor who'd been struggling. The neighbor mentioned it to someone else who felt inspired. Ripples spreading outward from one small choice, one moment of responding to what was needed without thinking about personal gain. That's how it works. Not through grand gestures that get recorded and celebrated, though those have their place. Through daily choices, moment by moment decisions about whether to reduce suffering or add to it. That's the only question that matters. Will this action decrease suffering or increase it? The Buddha understood this perfectly. Thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened. Happiness never decreases by being shared. Feel the truth of that. Your light doesn't diminish by lighting another candle. Your peace doesn't decrease by helping someone find peace. Your freedom expands when you work toward others' freedom. This is the mathematics of consciousness. It multiplies through sharing rather than dividing. And at the heart of this vow, at the center of living for others, at the core of the Bodhisattva path, is one final practice. The hardest one and the most freeing one. Learning to open your hands and let go of everything you've been clutching. That's where freedom truly lives. What if I told you the secret to happiness is giving everything away, not in some ascetic, self-denying way where you suffer nobly in poverty, but in the profound recognition that true wealth comes from open hands, not clenched fists. That freedom lives in letting go, not holding on. Generosity is the practice that completes the circle, that transforms everything else we've explored from concept into lived reality. And it comes in 3 distinct forms, each one training you in the art of release. Material generosity is what most people think of first, giving money, food, shelter, resources, time, possessions. These tangible gifts that meet tangible needs. But the quality of the giving matters more than the quantity. There's a woman I heard about who regularly fed homeless people in her city. Nothing unusual there. Many people do charitable work. What made her practice pure was that she never filmed it, never posted about it on social media, never collected praise or recognition. She just fed people who were hungry. That's it. That's pure generosity, giving freely, without seeking anything in return, not even the subtle payment of being seen as generous. Most of us give with invisible strings attached. We donate and want acknowledgement. We help and want gratitude. We give gifts and want to be remembered for them. The Buddha asks, can you give without any of that? Can the giving itself be enough? The second form is generosity of knowledge, teaching without withholding, sharing everything you know, without keeping secret tricks or special techniques for yourself. There's a scarcity mindset that says, if I share what I know, I'll lose my advantage, my value, my special position. But knowledge works differently than material things. When you give away a possession, you no longer have it. When you give away knowledge, you still have it, and the other person has it too. Knowledge multiplies through sharing. Teaching something deepens your own understanding. This doesn't diminish you, it expands you. Every time you help someone understand something, you clarify it further for yourself. Every time you pass on wisdom, you strengthen that wisdom's presence in the world. The third form is the rarest and perhaps most precious, generosity of presence. In our fragmented, distracted world, the gift of true attention has become extraordinarily rare. Being actually there with someone, phone away, mind present, not planning your response while they speak, not thinking about what you need to do next, just fully receiving them as they are in this moment. When was the last time someone gave you their complete, undivided attention for more than a few minutes? When was the last time you gave that gift to someone else? This generosity of presence might be the most valuable thing you can offer another human being. The experience of being fully seen and heard. But we resist giving. We resist all three forms for the same underlying reason: fear of scarcity. If I give money, I'll have less for myself. If I give time, I won't have enough left for my own needs. If I share knowledge, I'll lose my competitive edge. If I give full attention, I'll miss something important happening elsewhere. The mind generates these fears automatically, trying to protect you from depletion. But watch what actually happens when you give. Love multiplies when given. Loving someone doesn't diminish your capacity to love others. It expands it. Knowledge grows when shared. Teaching clarifies and deepens understanding. Presence strengthens when offered. Being fully with someone trains your capacity for presence in all situations. The paradox of generosity is real and testable in your own experience. The more you give, the wealthier you feel. Not because people reciprocate, though sometimes they do. Not because you're building good karma, though that happens too. But because giving itself fills you in a way that accumulating never does. Accumulation creates anxiety. Now you have something to protect, something to lose, something to worry about. Giving creates lightness, less to protect, less to lose, less to manage and control. The relief of open hands versus the tension of clenched fists. But for generosity to truly transform you, it needs one crucial ingredient: detachment. Giving without strings means exactly that. No invisible threads connecting you to what you gave. No expectation of return. No need for thanks or recognition or even acknowledgement that it happened. Helping without needing to be seen as helpful. Loving without needing to own or control the beloved. This is the hardest practice because the ego wants credit for everything. Detachment is not indifference. This distinction is crucial. Indifference is cold, checked out, not caring about outcomes because you're not engaged. Detachment is warm, fully engaged, caring deeply while simultaneously releasing attachment to specific outcomes. It's like building a sandcastle on the beach. You can build it beautifully with full attention and creativity and care, knowing the tide will take it. You enjoy the building. You appreciate the temporary creation. And when the waves come, you let it go without suffering because you understood from the start that this was temporary. That's detachment with care. So how do you practice this? How does this become real in your daily life, rather than just inspiring ideas? Give something today, anything at all. It doesn't have to be money or possessions. Could be a genuine smile to someone who looks tired. Could be your parking spot to the person circling desperately. Could be letting someone else be right in a conversation where being right doesn't actually matter. Just practice opening your hand in some way, however small. Notice where you grip tightly. Where in your life do you clench, hold on, refuse to release? What are you afraid to lose? That fear points to your edge, to the place where your specific work with letting go needs to happen. That's where freedom is waiting for you specifically. Not freedom in general, but your freedom. Let go of one thing today. Maybe it's a physical object you've been keeping out of some vague sense that you might need it someday. Maybe it's an old grudge you've been carrying, replaying the injustice, rehearsing what you should have said. Maybe it's a belief about yourself that no longer serves you. I'm not the kind of person who does that. I've always been this way. Release one thing and feel the lightness that arrives. The liberation comes gradually through practice. When you have nothing to protect, you're fearless, not because you're brave, but because there's nothing to be afraid of losing. When you have nothing to lose, you're free, not because you've lost everything, but because you've stopped gripping, stopped clutching, stopped trying to freeze change in its tracks. The Buddha's final teaching, spoken on his deathbed to his grieving students, captures this perfectly. All conditioned things are impermanent. Work out your own salvation with diligence. He didn't say, follow me, continue my lineage, preserve my exact words. He said, walk your own path, do your own work, find your own way through, and let go of everything, even these teachings themselves, if they become obstacles rather than liberators. Nothing to hold on to, nothing solid to stand on except this present moment. That's not terrifying. That's freedom itself. Rest here for a moment. Feel what's moved in you during this journey. There's no rush to reach any destination. And now we've walked this whole path together. From the first question at the very beginning, why does my mind feel like a storm? To this moment of understanding, of coming home. Let me bring us full circle. Remember at the beginning, the storm in your mind, the restlessness, the seeking, the sense that peace was always one step away. You thought you needed to calm the storm, find the right technique, the right practice, the right understanding that would finally make the chaos stop. Get your life arranged just right so the internal turbulence would settle. But the Buddha taught something radically different. You are the sky. The storms pass through you. They always have. The sky doesn't fight the storms, doesn't try to push them away or make them different, doesn't identify with them or believe they're permanent. The sky just is, vast, spacious, unchanging, while weather patterns move through it. Sometimes clear blue peace, sometimes raging thunderstorms, sometimes gentle rain, sometimes oppressive heat. The sky remains the sky through all of it. That's what's changed through this teaching. Not the storms themselves, but your relationship to them. You can see them coming now sometimes. Oh, there's that familiar anxiety building, that old pattern of self-criticism starting up, that habitual anger responding to perceived slights. You watch them arise with recognition rather than being instantly swept into their current. You watch them pass. Everything does eventually, doesn't it? The overwhelming emotion that felt like it would last forever dissolves. The situation that seemed impossible shifts. The mood that colored everything fades like morning fog. You've seen enough weather patterns now to trust that this too shall pass. You don't believe they're forever anymore. Even the pleasant states, you don't grasp at them desperately trying to make them stay, because you understand they're also temporary. This understanding doesn't make life less rich. It makes every moment more precious, precisely because it won't last. This is the unshakable mind the Buddha promised. Not that nothing bothers you, but that you're not shaken by being bothered. Pain exists and will continue to exist as part of human life. The body ages, gets sick, experiences discomfort. Loss happens, people die, relationships end, circumstances change. But suffering, the mental story about pain, the resistance to what is, the belief that this shouldn't be happening, that becomes optional when you stop fighting reality. Grief comes when someone you love dies. And of course it does. But you don't resist the grief. Don't tell yourself you shouldn't feel this way. Don't judge yourself for taking time to heal. You let grief move through you like weather through sky, trusting that it serves a purpose, honors what was lost, and will eventually transform. Joy comes when something delightful happens, and you welcome it fully. But you don't cling to it desperately. Don't try to freeze this moment forever. Don't panic when it starts to fade, as all moments do. You let joy dance through you and depart when it's ready, grateful for its visit, without demanding it stay. Everything we've talked about, karma and its ripples, presence in this moment, the eightfold path as practical guidance, compassion as seeing yourself in others, meditation as watching the mind, death as teacher, generosity as liberation. It's all one teaching, one truth seen from different angles, like walking around a diamond and seeing different facets catch the light. And that truth is simple, almost disappointingly so. You are already whole. You are already home. You just forgot for a while. This entire journey was just a reminder of what you've always known in your deepest being. This isn't about mastering anything. Mastery isn't the goal, couldn't be the goal, because that would just be another thing for the ego to grasp at and use to feel superior. This is about beginning, and then beginning again, and then beginning again. Every single day you wake up, you begin again. That's the practice. Infinite fresh starts, infinite opportunities to choose presence over distraction, kindness over harshness, opening over closing. Start small, impossibly small, one conscious breath, where you actually feel the air moving in and out. One kind word offered without calculation. One moment of letting go when your hands want to clench. That's enough. That's everything. You'll forget these teachings. You'll get angry at stupid things. You'll be petty in arguments. You'll scroll mindlessly through your phone for an hour and wonder where the time went. You'll fall into old patterns that you thought you'd moved beyond. That's okay. That's what being human looks like. The difference now is that you'll notice. Maybe not immediately, maybe hours or days later, but eventually you'll catch yourself and recognize what happened. And noticing is awakening. That moment of recognition, oh, I was lost in thought. Oh, I was reacting from old conditioning. Oh, I forgot to be present. That moment is enlightenment happening right there. You don't need to be perfect. The Buddha himself said clearly, no one saves us but ourselves. No one can, and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path, not follow someone else's path, not wait for rescue from outside. Walk your own path with your own feet, through your own life. These teachings are just a map, and the map is not the territory. At some point you fold up the map and start walking, and your walking is what makes it real. If you're still here with me now, thank you. Thank you for walking this path together, for bringing your attention and your heart to these words, for being willing to look at difficult truths and beautiful possibilities. Drop a comment if you feel moved to tell me where you are in the world, what time it is, where you're listening. I love imagining this teaching spreading out across the planet like light spreading across water. Maybe someone in Tokyo is hearing these words as dawn breaks. Maybe someone in Brazil is winding down their day with this as companion. Maybe someone in London, Cairo, Sydney, Vancouver is right here with you right now, listening to the same words at the same moment. We're all here together in this vast web of connection. May you be at peace with what is. May you be free from the suffering created by resistance. May you know your own unshakable nature, that sky-like awareness that nothing can disturb because it contains everything. May all beings everywhere be free from suffering. Until we meet again, whether in another teaching or just in the shared space of consciousness that connects us all, rest well, dear friend. The path is always here when you're ready to walk it. It's been here for 25 centuries and will be here for 25 more. It's patient. It waits. And you are already walking it just by being alive, by breathing, by reading or hearing these words, by caring enough about your own freedom and the freedom of all beings to have stayed with this teaching from beginning to end. That's not a small thing. That's everything. Rest now.